And I very clearly hear a voice in my head that says, you can change your life, but you need to do a cleanse and take probiotics, and you need to basically change the way you're living. And it was the first time I'd really heard a voice this clear, and it sort of, I didn't know how to take it or what to do with it. And so I did nothing. I sat on it for a few days. And Jeremiah, around the same time, had that same sort of experience.
Yeah, I was sitting on our porch, and I was just basically feeling, because when you lose your health, you lose your potential and you lose your purpose, and that is a dark, devastating time. And so
we basically had a conversation, and we decided that what we would do was we would clean up our life, that we wanted to be around for our children, and that the way we were living wasn't going to facilitate that. So, you know, we were relatively young in our eyes, and we wanted to be around for our kids. You know, with plantar fasciitis, he was unable to run with our kids. You know, here's a 2 and a 3-year-old, and he can't run and play with them.
I'd already given up racquetball. I couldn't play racquetball anymore, which is a passion.
We had a lot of things that we had given up on that we thought we were just too old for, and then we realized that we weren't ready to give up on those things. We weren't ready to give up on ourselves, and we were going to make a change. So again, we're still left with, we want to do this now. We're committed to doing this, but again, how do we make that change? So I had been seeing a dermatologist in DC, and she was doing injections under my eyes and selling me a really expensive chemical-laden skincare treatment, and I was unhappy with it, and I was looking for a more natural solution. So at work one day, I see these natural products and decided that I wanted to talk to them about it, because this is a vegan company and they have plant-based products. And the very cool thing about it is they talk about feeding your skin versus just covering it up with plumpers or other things that are really dehydrating your skin and making it worse. So I contacted the lady, the consultant, and I asked her to come talk to us. And so this is sort of how meeting Beth went. She came to the office, and that day I was having a really hard time. So on the way to work, I used to work in Cumberland, which is about 2 hours away, and I was having really bad tunnel vision. And so I don't know if you've ever driven 60 over the mountain towards Amherst, but there's no real good place to pull off, and there's no really good place to have issues not being able to see. It was kind of a rainy spring morning, and
she calls me. She's terrified. I talk her through it. She's scared. She doesn't know if she's going to pass out or what, but she just asked me to stay on the phone with her until she made it to work. And of course, there's a dead zone there, so for about 45 minutes, there's no cell contact whatsoever. So I didn't know if she'd made it or not until she got there.
So I got to Amherst, and I stopped at McDonald's, because that's where I stopped every morning, and I got a chicken biscuit and a Coke, which made me feel better. And then, you know, I stopped at the gas station right before I got to work, and I got another Coke and a Mountain Dew, because this was my typical how to get through the day to get to lunch. And then I have a meeting for lunch with this health and wellness consultant, and, you know, I chose a salad that day because that's a healthier option than French fries, right? So I'm still eating my chicken sandwich for lunch, but I'm eating a salad because I look better to myself, right? So this is my thought process at this point. And, you know, she was very kind and no judgment, and nothing was said to me about the way that I was eating. And, you know, she very clearly looked at me. My skin was sort of pale, and I told her that I had a headache, and she said, "What is your blood pressure?" And I said, "I don't know, I don't really check it." So I checked it, and that's the day that I found out that it was actually 150 over 100, which was kind of a wake-up call. You know, this is getting into a point where you can have a stroke. You're certainly hurting your heart, you're hurting your kidneys. Like, they call high blood pressure the silent killer, because for many, many years you can be affecting yourself without even knowing it, or in some cases knowing it, but just choosing not to do anything about it. So that was definitely a further wake-up call. And she said, "You know, I'd love to help you with your skincare, but first, I really think that you need to consider doing a cleanse." And so there's that word again that I've heard, and it was like, you know, here's this path that's put in front of you, and she goes over the program with me, and it's everything that we'd been asking for that we didn't even know we were asking for, a 30-day program on how to go from here to here, and we're going to spell it out for you, and we're going to give you supplements, and we're going to make it easy so you don't even have to think about it. So here are the recipes. All you do is just follow the program. And so I called Jeremiah, and I could almost hear his eyes rolling on the other side. And he said, well, yes, we've talked about this. We said that we were going to make a healthy lifestyle change. This has been presented to us, so let's go for it. And that was sort of our start with Arbonne. And, you know, by no means do I feel like you need a program like this. We just currently were very lost, and we didn't know how to get from point A to point B, and we didn't have people that we could talk to at the time because all of our friends ate the way that we did, and so we were sort of, you know, on an island by ourselves with no bridge, right?
And so that's why another reason that we're here. You don't need a program like that. You just need a community. You need a community who you can ask questions to. We don't know all the answers, but who does? And so we did a 30-day cleanse. We cut out all the major things, the dairy, coffee, cut out a lot of fruit except for green apples and any berry. We had that. And after 30 days, we felt so good, we wanted to keep doing it to see how far.
Our taste changed completely after 2
changed.
weeks. Things that, I mean, you started tasting things that you didn't know that you weren't tasting before. And I've never been a smoker, but I sort of likened it to being a smoker. They say when you quit smoking, that you start tasting all of the stuff that you didn't know that you couldn't taste before. And so we really experienced that at about 2 weeks in, cutting out the sugar, cutting out a lot of the unhealthy fats, and cutting out a lot of the inflammatory foods, which was pretty awesome. So that was another thing that sort of kept us going and keeping us excited. So why 90?
Yeah, we went for 90 days.
So we ended up going for a total of 90 days. At this point, we are still eating lean meat. So we were eating fish and chicken, but we weren't doing any other dairy, eggs, things along those lines. So it's, I mean, to say it's vegan with those two meats doesn't sound right, but that's, I don't know how else to describe it.
It's a somewhat vegan diet. Yeah.
Vegan with chicken and fish, which is not. But so anyway, so we decided to do it for 90 days. And the reason we did it for 90 days was because when I put an animal on a food trial, we eliminate the food for 90 days. And that sort of flushes everything out of their system. It allows them to have a full reset. And then, like I had mentioned earlier, we were doing a Whole30 based recipes. And so with that program, what you do, and with Arbonne also, is you take out all of these inflammatory mediators and you take out these allergen foods, and then you put one back at a time. So the first thing we tried was dairy. Okay, so we're going to put dairy back in. How do you feel? Does it make you feel like you have an issue? And it gives you the ability to sort of listen to your body. Turns out all of these years, I had a serious issue with gluten. And as soon as I ate gluten, I got a massive headache. And I was like, wow, that was fast. Like, I thought I just had headaches, but little did I know that I was sort of poisoning myself all this time, and my body was screaming at me that I had this issue.
But you're so unhealthy, you don't know why your body is screaming. So after you do a cleanse of that nature, you can individually pick out. I could tell you the minute I ate something, how it was going to affect me. So yeah, we might need to step up a little bit.
Yeah. So for full disclosure, it took about a year to really resolve both of our issues, and that's a year of eating really clean and trying to do well. So Arbonne gave us the re-education that we needed. It basically gave us the tools that we needed so that we could relearn what we thought we knew about food. And I want to point out here that this is not a lifestyle change of limits, but instead is really limitless. You can have your favorite recipes. There's ways that you can rework them into your life. One of my favorite things is chicken piccata. Well, now that we don't eat chicken, that was sort of off my list, but I recently found that lion's mane is a really great substitute for chicken. So lion's mane is a mushroom. You can use it as a seafood supplement or a seafood alternative or all sorts of things. And so lion mane cooked similarly with piccata over top of it and some healthy gluten-free noodles.
It's really good.
It worked out really well. And so that's sort of how we beat the knife. And both of us were looking at having surgery, and neither one of us wanted to go down that road. And so through diet and lifestyle change, we were sort of able to mitigate that and put that off.
And the unfortunate thing is that's the first thing that our doctors went to. Okay, well, we have to treat you with surgery. This is basically the only way, and it's not the only way. And we're both here to tell you that the majority of your ailments can be stopped in its tracks and even reversed simply by, we feel, switching to a plant-based diet.
Sure. So many of us have failed at diets, and I mean, I'm sure every single one of us can raise our hand, right? Like, so, but why don't diets work? Diets don't work because there's a finite period, right? We're going to do this for 10 days, right? Who's done the cabbage soup diet?
Yeah,
it's a good one, right? How about the boiled egg diet? Anyone done the boiled egg diet? I hate boiled eggs, and I convinced him that we should do the boiled egg diet because it was 10 days, and it promised that you were going to lose 20 pounds in 10 days. And I was like, let's do it. So
it was just 10 days of mad on her end.
It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. But here's the thing. When you get off the diet, then what do? You go right back to what you were eating, and then we say the diet failed, but it's not really the diet's fault, is it? Because we didn't make these lifestyle changes. So when you're looking to go plant-based, it's really important to realize that if you slip and you fall back into it, don't give up. Just sort of get back onto it, you know? I mean, we sometimes take the kids to get ice cream, and I really enjoy it, but I no longer can keep ice cream in my refrigerator because I know that I can't.
We make ourselves drive to Stanton
right.
now to get
It's even
good
further
ice cream,
than Lexington. Like, this is a real commitment. Like, we are going to go there, and this is going to be something that we're doing, and it's going to be fun. So if you're confused, it is by design.
Not our design.
Not our design, right? So
media.
You know, media and all of these different avenues have ways of keeping us confused so that we sort of stay in the cycle.
And what we're talking about, eggs are good today, but then tomorrow the new headlines are, okay, eggs are bad for you, whatever. Okay, just
fat's good.
Just eliminate,
but no,
just
now
eliminate
it's not
those
fat,
things.
And sugar's okay, but not this sugar. And
plant-based diet is even keeled and stays the course.
So this is a breakdown of the standard American diet. You can find this on Google very easily, which is where I found it, but it sort of illustrates what the standard American diet is. So if you were eating what the majority of Americans eat, then about 85% of what you're eating is processed food or animal products. That doesn't leave a whole lot of nutrition, you know, for the good body that you would like to have. So salt, sugar, and fat all work in your brain to increase dopamine, which translates to an addiction. So this is the same hormone that works with all addictions in our body. And so, you know, and I think that we say, oh, well, I'm not addicted to anything. But if you're eating processed foods, and there's a very good chance that you are, in fact, addicted to those foods. And that is by design so that you keep going back.
And as I mentioned earlier, we're a creature of habits. So our habits, whether positive or negative, they're still comforting to us. So, and it's comforting because it's a predictable result, and dopamine is the root cause of that predictable result. It's going to take you to a really happy place, and it could be detrimental to your health.
Right. Yeah. So when we talk about addiction, you know, these were some of the things that we really struggled with as far as what foods caused us problems. You know, when we were looking to make a change, the biggest thing was, and this is the same when we were trying to do a diet, well, when do you start, right? There's always someone's birthday, or there's a holiday around the corner.
Valentine's Day's coming up.
right? Or, you know, there's always a reason and an excuse why you shouldn't do this. And we hope that through these classes, or through your own experiment or your own sort of things, that you will find that you don't have to give things up. You just have to rethink how you're thinking about this. That there are lots of great foods that you can eat that don't have the things that you're trying to avoid in them. One of the women that's going to cook, she's a vegan chef, and she makes the most amazing cheeseless cheesecakes, and they're made out of cashews. And so they taste just like it, if not better. So there's
Definitely
yeah, better, definitely better. So there's a lot of really amazing things out there, and it's fun, you know, like we said, to sort of experiment and find that.
This is really interesting. And I just on this slide here, this is not including your candies, your soft drinks, or anything that are meant to be sweet. When we go with this,
go for it, absolutely.
So the average person eats 40 teaspoons of sugar a day in their processed food. So they add sugar to this to keep you coming back.
You did the math on this last night. How much was that a month or a week? Was it like 2.5 pounds?
It's right at 2.5 pounds of sugar the average American is eating, and that's not in soda, candy, or anything that's meant to be sweet. It's just the stuff on the shelf. So basically what we're saying is if you take all the stuff that they add sugar to in the supermarket and you take that out, you're left anywhere between 11 to 18% of stuff that's still on the shelf. So the other percentage is stuff that has sugar that's added to it.
So this is a real quick slide. The problem with the process, or one of the big problems with the process, is that when they're changing the food and they're making it into whatever it is they're making, you lose the real ingredients, you lose the real nutrition. Then they add those back chemically and synthetically, and then that doesn't taste very good, so then they're also adding additional sugar, salt, and fat to that so that it tastes good.
So yes, sugar, salt, and fat, the things that we do need. We do need sugar for proper brain function. We need all this stuff to function properly, but it seems that by design, what we need is being used against us. And we're not vilifying anyone. This is just making you aware of the processes and highly refined foods that are out there, the convenience foods.
Yeah. So this was something that I also thought. I thought that I could go to the gym and run for an hour and then I could still eat what I wanted. But the problem is you're still feeding your body that same fuel, right? So the fuel is bad, and your car's not going to run well if you're not giving it the appropriate fuel. So this was another sort of misconception that we just wanted to touch on. This particular slide is one of the saddest slides that I think I've ever seen. So 6 in 10 adults in the United States already have a chronic disease, and 4 in 10 have 2 or more. So the leading cause of death and disability in our nation, which cost us about $3.5 trillion in annual cost.
And these are old studies too.
Right. So if you take a look at this, so heart disease, cancer, stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and chronic kidney. I think we know where the chronic lung disease comes into play, but all the rest of these major chronic diseases are associated and can be mitigated with food.
Yeah. And there's a lot of research out there, a lot of doctors out there who swear to the fact that these diseases are preventable, these diseases are stoppable, and in many cases they're reversible.
So this is just a real quick definition about what chronic disease is, but the most important thing is that a lot of doctors won't tell you what the result is. You know, I know that I specifically went and asked a lot of questions about, well, what's the cause of this? And I got a lot of different answers, but no one ever pointed me to the fact that the dark circles under my eyes were associated with a gluten intolerance, that the acne was associated with the fact that my small intestines weren't happy and that I actually had leaky bowel, that there are a lot of different issues that are associated with what you're seeing on the outside that are actually directly linked to what is going on the inside.
So chronic diseases aren't, go back to the slide, no. They're not contagious, not prevented by vaccines, they're not cured by medications, they can be hidden by medications, but not curable. And they develop over time as a result of nobody knows, genetics or whatever. No one ever tells you that it's what you eat.
So just want to touch on this real quick. Again, as a veterinarian, I had to put this in there because one of the saddest things that I see is pets that look like their owners. And so obesity doesn't just, it only exists in animals and humans, or the domestic animals that we care for and humans. And the other really sad thing that I've seen as a trend recently is the fact that I see a lot of animals coming in dying of the same diseases that their people are also fighting. So it's really sad when I have to, when I'm diagnosing an animal with cancer and then the owner tells me, well, my husband just died of that, a few months ago. And it breaks my heart. And so it's actually one of the reasons that I've sort of stepped away from veterinary medicine, because that correlation between the fact that what we're feeding our animals is, they're our sentinels. They are absolutely 100% our sentinels, and they are screaming to us, we have a problem. So this is a real quick little thing. Again, we wanted to touch on some of the things that were confusing or misnomers before we went into the plant-based thing. And one of the questions that you may get when you do this is, well, how are you going to get your calcium? You know, if you want to prevent osteoporosis, you've got to have calcium, right? So this sort of shows you what calcium does in our body, and it creates an acidity in our body that actually leaches calcium out of our bones to buffer it. And then the calcium that we think that we're getting not only is lost through our urine, but you're also pulling calcium out of your bones that also then gets lost.
Mm-hmm.
You have anything you wanted to say? Sorry, I'm sort of
It's good.
going through this fast. This is something that I also wanted to touch on real quick. One of the things that we think is really important, and one of the things that's sort of a recent buzz term, is the microbiome. Anyone really familiar with that? So the microbiome are all the bacteria that live on and in us. There's actually more bacteria that live on and in us than there are cells in our body, which is kind of a crazy thing to say.
It's
like
creepy.
We are more bacteria than we are cells. The gut produces 85% of your serotonin. So if your gut is unhealthy, chances are you're also very unhappy, which also sort of gets back into that cycle of eating foods that make you feel good, which ultimately kill the bacteria, which just sort of go along. And there's new studies out that are saying that your gut is a direct loop back then to your brain, and it may be associated with Alzheimer's, which I thought was pretty interesting.
And also your gut's it's the starting point for your immune system as well. So if you have a healthy gut, you're probably not as susceptible to a lot of things that people who have an unhealthy gut biome are susceptible to.
So the good news is, though, if food is the problem, then food is also the solution. And so that's where the plant-based the plant-based diet sort of comes in. The China study is a great book. If you haven't seen the documentary Forks Over Knives, we definitely recommend it. It's really phenomenal. They've got lots of cookbooks. The China study basically was this doctor's realization that, you know, he grew up a dairy farmer and he grew up eating meat and potatoes just like all of us here in Virginia did. And this was his realization that what the cause was the food, and that if you changed that, then you could change the course of these disease processes. But it was done in China, and the foods that they were eating were directly related to specific cancers and specific diseases. So pretty good information. So I've been talking a lot.
No, I'm used to it. So like we said earlier, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change, and if you really like what you've had this evening, and these are just simple ingredients put together in a simple way, and it's a little time consuming, but I like this slide because it kind of gives you a measurement of where you are. And I would say that when Sarah and I first started, we're probably around a 1 here, and not knowing how to bridge the gap to get to the other side, and I think we've been all the way to 8 before, and then we kind of slip back, and you find the things that work well in your life. And so no matter where you are on this bridge, like we said, we want to help our community and everybody here bridge the gap from wherever they are on this spectrum to where they want to go. The main thing is not to go back to an unhealthy eating routine, but to keep pushing forward, and any little step forward is in a positive direction.
Yeah. And if you have a community and a group of people that are supporting you, then it's really easy to make that change. So we can do this one, I think, pretty quick if you want to do it. This is just sort of an illustration. Yeah,
so it's basically, it's a good illustration, kind of breaks it down. So if you look at the oil in comparison to potatoes, beans, and rice, fruits and veggies, lots, and the cheeses and the meats and stuff here, you get a lot of calories with a little bit of full feeling in your stomach, and that's why we tend to overeat. We just keep packing this stuff in because it hasn't hit that valve in there or whatever it is that tells you that you're full. So, but by eating a plant-based diet, you get fuller faster, same amount of calories, but it lasts with you a long time.
The stretch receptors.
The stretch receptors. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So we had talked earlier. Do you go cold turkey, or do you sort of gradually go into this? I personally don't think there's a right or a wrong. However, I will say that when we went cold turkey, it really helped to break the sugar and salt and fat addictions. And by doing that, then you can control your cravings so that you have a better chance of not having that backslide. Once you get to the end of probably a 90-day would be recommended, then you can try things back to see if it causes you issues like gluten or some of these other
Dairy.
things.
Yeah.
But it definitely, if you have the willpower to go cold turkey, you will certainly have better outcomes because you will break those addictions that are really sort of causing you to have a backslide. Go for
Yeah, it can be tough. I mean, we've experienced it. We were there. You do have these food addictions. I was addicted to peanut M&Ms. I absolutely love them. I would go into keep them in the refrigerator, a nice cold handful of peanut M&Ms. You eat them. I'd eat them for a handful for breakfast, a couple handfuls for lunch, and that's a really hard thing to break. I don't touch them now. I've totally walked away from them. I do not like them. But you will be a little fatigued as you're going through this change. You might have headaches because if you're used to certain foods that make you feel a certain way.
But you're also metabolizing toxins out of your body, so you have to realize that as you're changing, your body is also changing. So these things are a process of you getting healthier, and even though there may be a short period where you feel unhealthy, this is going to help you sort of flush these toxins out so that you can get healthy.
Yeah. And you could be gassy and weak and anxious. Maybe not in that order, but it could happen, yeah.
No one will take better care of you than you.
Yeah. And so, we're here to help you. So you can either keep going in the same direction or moderately change and go in the other direction. But I feel for certain that any aches and pains that you have can be fixed by your diet.
Yeah. So if you find yourself at this crossroads, just know that you do have a community here to support you. And from what it sounds like, we've got a lot of experienced people in here, so there's going to be a lot of really wonderful ways that we can stay connected and sort of work through this process together. And by choosing this healthier path, you will get your life back. And we hope that we can help you do that any way we can. So then I guess the question is, where will your journey take you?
Yeah. And it starts today. And being here, just being here and wanting to learn more or just add to your recipe list is a positive step in the right direction. So I commend everybody for being here. And like we've mentioned earlier, we're not experts. We're learning just like everybody else. And we fall down, but we pick ourselves back up, especially during the holidays. I think we fell down a little bit.
So we wanted to thank you guys all for being here. Thank you for sitting through our talk. Hopefully it was inspiring to some of you, or we've got one more slide. Okay. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for everyone who helped put this on. And
Thank you.
Cool. So just to talk real quick. Yes, Pastor Bob?
Just 2 questions.
Okay.
When is the next meeting, and is it okay to bring a friend?
Absolutely. Please bring as many friends as you would like. Just let us know so we'll have the right amount of food. The next meeting, because last week was postponed due to the storm, is going to be next week, which is January 30th. Heidi, who is in the kitchen, who has been vegan her entire life, and is a vegan mama, so she knows all sorts of kid-friendly recipes, is going to be doing a healthy twist on Mexican. February 13th, right before the love holiday that we don't speak of, we're going to do lasagna you will love with Kate, who is also a vegan chef in the area and does all sorts of fun dessert sort of culinary twists on favorites, and she sells a lot of her stuff at
Local markets.
Local markets, and so you can check her out there. February 27th is going to be a really fun one. We're going to do a kids cooking episode, and we're going to have Hazel, who's going to be teaching us how to make mac and cheese. And then we're going to do one March 13th, March 27th, and then April 10th. And so those menus haven't necessarily been set at this point, but basically the sequence is every other week with the exception of this next week. Okay. Mondays and Fridays, we will be posting the ingredients and how to prepare them on Facebook. We may do some teasers throughout the week as well, just to sort of keep everyone's interest piqued. I know Jeremiah will probably do something about the tea that we had here tonight. We may also do Jeremiah's amazing coffee recipe that I personally like, and it's decaf now, so everyone here can drink it. And so other little fun things as we go. If you have recipes that you particularly like and you would like to share them, please let us know. We can do that there, and we can sort of keep this momentum rolling and keep people getting healthy in one step at a time, right?
Yeah. And I want to thank our church for allowing us to do this here. It really means a lot. I know we have a very strong health message, and I think this just adds to it to just keep our community healthy. And I think we had a question.
Excuse me. I would like to hear a little bit about your journey after you got clarity on your spiritual journey, and how it brought you to a spiritual journey.
So we drank, and so when we did Arbonne, we stopped drinking. And so each layer that we sort of removed, I sort of akin to this haziness that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And then through this process, like I said, it will be 4 years this Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And last year, about January, about this time, we both just sort of had the feeling that we wanted to know why we didn't know God, and why we, the question just kept being posed in different media outlets.
In different ways, yeah.
And in different sort of ways, and we were like, well, why don't we? And so I think that through clarity and through clearing our minds of toxins and substances, that we were actually able to hear the prompting that was to ultimately bring us here. And the fact that we aligned, we came to this church because of the health message. We really liked the fact that it had a health message. We liked a lot of aspects of it, but that was one of the things that really drew us to it, was the fact that they cared, and that seemed to be something that was important.
And go ahead, yeah.
I'd like to ask about toxic foods. I graduated school in 1983. Up to that point, I'd never heard of a peanut allergy. Every kid in school had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Now, I personally think perhaps it is due to the decades of herbicides and pesticides in the soil that go into the peanuts. I also would like to get some input on the gluten thing. Never heard of gluten intolerance up until about 10 years ago, and it seems like everybody's
Got an issue.
Could that have something to do with generically altered foods?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of research out there that gets pointed to that, pesticides and things for these allergies. Absolutely. I agree with that research. And as far as the gluten intolerance, we've read articles, it's not gluten intolerance, it's modern wheat intolerance, and it goes back to the pesticides and the herbicides and things like that. Now, we can't really stand up here and say that definitively, but if you look at the small print and you look at some of the subdued research that's out there about it, good doctors trying to do good things, and good researchers doing good things, it's not something that's going to make mainstream media at all.
Glycophosphates definitely are a problem for sure. Any other questions or anything? Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you. Sorry that we ran over a few minutes, but thank you all again so much for being here. We hope we see you next week. And yes, please bring a friend.
Yeah.
And those of you who joined us online, thank you so much. And please leave your comments on the Facebook page, and we will make sure to send you the information that our in-house guests received tonight. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you. God bless.